Dwayne, no.
Okay. Welcome back to the From the Fabricator podcast. I'm your host, Max Pearlstein. Thanks for joining me once again. It is December, and we're almost done with this wonderful year of 2023. Have this podcast and possibly one more before the year ends. As always, the podcast is brought to you by myglassclass.com and now its new counterpart, myglassfab.com. Check them out. They are from the National Glass Association and a great range of classes, easy to use, 24/7, on-demand training, which is super necessary. And as you'll hear Henry Taylor later in this podcast talk about, training is your greatest insurance. So get on to it. myglassclass.com, myglassfab.com from the National Glass Association. If you need more info, hit me up. I'll point you in the right direction. Check that out. Now, on to the podcast. It is a quote unquote, jokingly or ironically, tailor-made podcast. I got two tailors for you today. I've got Trey Taylor from Bees, Building Envelope Erection Services, and Henry Taylor from Kawneer. Great guys, lots of great insight. My gosh, learned a ton. Here we go. We're starting off with Trey, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay. Kicking off this month, I'm thrilled to be joined by Trey Taylor, president of Building Envelope Erection Services, Bees, better known as you see them online. And you can find them online at www.beesinc.net, Bees Inc., Building Envelope Erection Services. Trey, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Glad to be here, Max. Really appreciate it. And thanks for all you do for our industry overall.
I appreciate that. And thank you. I mean, I love the work that you guys do. And that's what really kind of brought me to this moment of wanting to talk with you. And there's a bunch of stuff that, I wrote down that I want to cover, but really it starts with, I'm always curious on how people end up in our fun industry. I'd love to know where were you born and your childhood, and then how do you end up in this wonderful world that we call the glass and glazing world?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Eastern North Carolina, a small town in Snow Hill, which is about an hour east of Raleigh.
Okay.
And kind of my family was in construction. My granddad was a home builder. But more importantly, my uncle was in the glazing industry. His name's Jesse Oakes. And Jesse partnered with a guy named Howard Teft. Howard and Jesse both are actually still in the industry. Howard now works for Juba and Jesse works for Physical Securities. But long story short, somewhere around circa 97, 98, Jesse conned me into coming to work for him and took off in the field doing laborious work, anything from cleanup, miscellaneous things, and ended up helping him build his house and kind of fell in love with the industry. I think I was 16 years old. And I just took it from there and kind of knew right then that was what I wanted to do, and went to college at ECU and studied construction management, and knew from the whole time that the glass industry was really where I wanted to spend my time and energy. I love construction, but was fascinated just by the architecture and kind of being part of the exterior of what you see when you ride by. So that's how I got started.
I love it. And so now you're president of Bees, and it's an impressive company. I saw, when you were the NGA member spotlight company, the culture that you have and so on. But let's just talk a little bit about your company Bees. What's your specialty, and what's your approach to work over there?
Yeah, so it's always evolving. When we started Bees, Building Envelope Erection Services. So we started out, we were a labor-only company doing installation work, and really used that word envelope kind of holistically to kind of cover metal panels, stone, terracotta, different infills and stuff that you see on the exterior. That kind of, as the company took its shape, curtain wall in general was really what we focused on. We do projects that have metal panel cladding as well, but predominantly at least 60-75% needs to be curtain wall or storefront for us to really get excited about it. But as we've kind of evolved, that went from installation to then fabrication, and ultimately led to us being more of a total scope glazing contractor.
Gotcha.
One thing that's pretty unique though about us is, even though we are a total scope glazing contractor, we still sell our services a la carte.
Okay.
So we work with many of the larger glazing contractors such as Graham Hodge or SPS or Charlotte Glass or Harris Wall Systems,
Sure.
just to name a few. bring glass, different ones in our areas we'll partner with, and we may take on a piece of the pie.
Okay.
For some projects, it may be fabrication only, or for some fab and install. And for the majority of them now, we're kind of partnering in, and we're providing an engineered product for the curtain wall, where we're taking on the responsibility of delegated design and material procurement and so on for the aluminum portions, and then fabricating and installing that, and having kind of a joint ventured approach to the project, if you would.
Nice, nice. And that's nice to have that kind of diverse approach too, because you're not caught into one little area. So that's got to make you sleep a little bit better at night, right?
That's thought. Yes, it definitely helps to have other partners and folks we can take parts and pieces of the pie and string together what we like to think is a better overall product. But we will sell our services direct to general contractors too.
Right.
So we'll have a number of projects on any given year that we'll go to complete scope and provide the full enclosure system under our own umbrella.
And so from LinkedIn, and I mean, again, your projects are spectacular. I'm curious, where mostly in the Carolinas, the Charlotte area, Raleigh area, or do you guys morph out further into the Southeast or up into the Mid Atlantic?
And so we like to say that we're a Raleigh-based contractor and we're focused in the Raleigh market. But truthfully, we've done work in Virginia, South Carolina, in the edges of Georgia as well. Back in the days of curtain wall erectors, that was how I got introduced to the glazing business. CEI was a labor-only company, and they spanned really from Florida to Maryland and got upwards of 150 field employees at one time. And that was just tough, Max. It
Yeah.
was tough to cover that much geography and territory, and was difficult on me as a project manager, superintendent, kind of coming up through the ranks of just the travel. And so we really took the approach with bees not to put our employees in that position unless we had no other options. And thankfully, unfortunately, there's been enough work in the North Carolina market to keep us home, and that's what we hope will continue.
Well, I like it. I like it. And I'm curious, are you amazed by the growth of Raleigh? I mean, that my gosh, that town has just gone bonkers.
Yeah, man, it's been pretty intense to watch and be a part of. I lived in Snow Hill most of my life. I moved up to Raleigh, I guess, going on 9, 10 years ago now, and it's been pretty incredible to watch. There's a lot of good things happening. Raleigh's got a pretty stable market. It's no surprise. I don't guess my competitors out there is going to come crashing in.
Right.
The one downside, though, of Raleigh, and most people know this, is our public work is all CM at risk, meaning the low bidder of the glazing contractors will end up with the project. And so, I don't have a problem trying to be competitive and be low. That's all fun and part of the sport of contract glazing, but it can be a challenge in our market to chase that type of work. And so that is one downside to the Raleigh market. It's just the public market's such a tough competitive market to play in.
Sure, sure, no doubt, no doubt. And that low bidder thing is always an adventure. I always think of the movie with Bruce Willis, Armageddon, when they're sitting in the rocket, and he says, "How you feeling?" And Ben Affleck says, "We're sitting in a rocket with 14 billion pounds of gasoline in it, built by the low bidder. How do you think I
Yeah,
feel?" You know,
well, that's for sure. I want to clarify a couple things there, though. So low bidder, that in of itself doesn't necessarily bother me, and I
right?
think it probably doesn't bother most companies. It's more when you have to be the low bidder on a rip and read bid, and you're not able to fully describe the scope and
Gotcha.
understand the value and the different things that go along with actually putting together one of these structures. It makes it a little difficult to fit all of that in 8.5 by 11.
Yeah.
And so I have no problem trying to be competitive and getting to the lowest dollar or the best value. But sometimes that term just rip and read and low bidder is a turn off.
And see, I grew up in a world where there was always that one company in the market that was the notorious low bidder, no matter what, and it would drive you crazy, and you'd always scratch your head. And I scratched mine so much that I didn't have any hair left. That how do they get there? How do they get to that number? So that's when I hear it. That's what I think of. But you added proper context, so thank you, for bringing that full circle for me from my negative past, I guess you could say.
And we have those as well. And there's a lot of gossip that goes on in our industry, as you well know. So I
Yes.
normally choose not to do that. And in most cases, I'll look at it if there's that one company that's consistently low, low, low. What have they figured out that the rest of us have not? Instead
There's
of
a
getting angry at them, they've got to be doing something right. Now, in some cases, I'm sure they're not, but oftentimes they figured something out.
It is a good question to always ask. That's for sure. That's for sure. I'm with Trey Taylor, president of Bees Building Envelope Erection Services in North Carolina. Beesinc.net's their website. Please check it out. You've been around curtain wall now for basically your entire professional life, and I'm very curious on this question. You've seen a lot. What do you think we're doing good with curtain wall out there, and what do you think we should be better at, sort of thing?
You hit me with this question kind of before the podcast to
Yes.
ponder some, and I've questioned it quite a bit. And I guess one of the things that I'm excited about seeing more of is that the skins continue to get more and more integrated, not just with glass. And I don't even think that this is somewhat brand new. I think in different areas in the world, it's been going on for some time, but it's nice to see other materials and substrates getting integrated into an envelope system to create a better performing enclosure than just sticking with storefront or curtain wall that's glazed into a stud frame system. So I'm excited about the integration.
Good.
Is one thing that I would say. And then I think another thing that I'd like to add would, I'm not a scientist, right? But science certainly intrigues me, and energy performance, all of those things obviously gets all of us excited. But I'm excited to see what may come from collecting some of the solar energy with the
Yeah.
buildings over time. I'm not sure yet if that technology will take off during my time. I'd certainly like to see it, and I think it's something to aspire to try to do. So I'm excited to see more of that for sure.
And I'm with you. I look at that curtain wall of the building on the glass side. Let it do something. Let it work for you. And I've always been on that train. It's just now trying to make it work financially and trying to make it work from an efficiency standpoint. Because once you glaze it, it's in there. There's no, flipping it out sort of thing. And so you don't want to have old technology 10 minutes after you installed it. So I think that's a challenge the solar guys have. And there's some good ones working on it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah.
So mixing things up a little bit, fun one. Curious on your favorite sports teams. You are from Eastern Carolina, and I believe you said you went to Eastern Carolina University, ECU?
ECU, so East Carolina
East,
University.
sorry, yes.
Yeah, no worries
Pirates,
on
the
that.
Pirates. So it was the
Yeah,
Pirates, right? So I have that right at least.
Pirates. You got that
Gotcha.
right. Yes,
Okay.
the Pirates. Yes,
Okay.
sir. So, yeah, sports. I grew up playing sports, baseball, football, a little bit of basketball, but mainly baseball and with a little football mixed in, and obviously love sports. But as I've grown up, I don't find myself as the guy that just watches every game or chases every score. I certainly keep abreast of what's going on, but I used to would say that I would be an ECU fan die hard just because I
Hmm.
went there. But with all of the work we've done at the various universities in our state, I'm starting to kind of change that pattern some. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people out there that would say Duke, no way. But hey, you know what? Duke has been very good to Bees, and it's been fun to be a part of their university, and I've enjoyed it and kind of found myself pulling for them some. But I could just as easily say the same thing for NC State or UNC. So I guess I'll be that guy that just won't choose a side and
Yeah.
say, hey, I like all sports, and I pull for the winning team.
I
So
like you know what I like the approach, and I don't blame you. If Duke or UNC or NC State's been good to you, I think it's good to them. But the nice thing is you have great colors at ECU with the purple and gold. Those
we
are stylish colors. So at least you have some good gear.
there you go. Yeah, thanks for that, Max. I
I love
appreciate
it. I
it.
love it. All right. So back to I'm with Trey Taylor of Bees, and a couple more questions. I know you're a busy man. This one is I love to ask this to guys like you who are hands on. You've done so many things. What's the favorite project you've done over the years? And for some people, it's the project that made them. Some people it was the hardest project. Some people it was the most profitable project. I'm really curious. What of you? And I know it's like picking your favorite kid sort of thing, but favorite project for Trey Taylor and Bees over the years?
Sure. If I had to boil it down to just one, I would definitely pick a Duke West Union or Duke Broadhead Center as it's been renamed.
Okay.
And mainly just from the variety and the complexity of the facade. It was one of the most intense design assist projects I've ever worked on. Grimshaw was the architect, and we worked with Roschmann Steel and Glass out of Germany,
Yep.
and Skanska was the general contractor. But that was a year and a half of design assist. I think we had 13 wall types on the project. It was just very intense with interior stairs, and we put up the steel structure inside for the stairs and wood louvers and just interior bridges. We had 6 interior bridges with glass treads and steel stringers, 2 exterior bridges weighing over 22,000 pounds each that we had to figure out how to put in place. So that would definitely be the one, but you're absolutely right. It's hard to single it down. I could talk about 20 others that have had just as
Yeah.
much impact. And it's not necessarily for me about what was the most profitable. For me personally, it's probably what was the most challenging and technically challenging that
Yeah.
really made you kind of think about things other than just go out there and do the same repetitive thing over and over again.
Sure, that sounds like a heck of a project. That's just keeping you on your toes. And you're right. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that whole favorite project thing. And I like people ask me, do you like what you do? And I like what I do because every day it's different, and
Yeah.
I'm always dealing with something different. And I can imagine with a guy like you like when these challenges probably come across your desk to say, oh
Oh,
yeah, I can sink my teeth into this.
yeah, I think we all do. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that's human nature. It's a big part of our mission is, we're doing this to be challenged, right? To use our God-given skills, and so that's part of it. And if you're not sharpening your tool constantly, then you're not getting challenged, and that could be anything from logistics to details or whatever. It's just that's what's fun about it is just constantly changing. In fact, just to add a little bit of context to what you mentioned about liking it ever changing,
yeah.
we're looking at a project currently that has got a 4 or 5 year long project, and
Wow.
we're talking about burnout, of what could happen emotionally wise. Do you get tired of doing the same thing for so long? And
Yeah.
and the answer is a lot of our staff would. And so we'd have to have creative ways of keeping them engaged throughout just to keep that momentum going. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's and that's a consideration that a lot of people would not take into a mind. So I give you credit there for that because some people would look at it and say, "Hey, wow, this is going to be a project that could last us a while," and it's classy by you to look at it and say, "Hey, will this burn or wear our folks out?" So again, that's why. And I got a question later on about your culture, so that makes sense that you're thinking about your
Yeah.
folks and your teammates. But before we get to that, I'm just curious. You mentioned earlier about the solar products, the energy related projects, products on the building. Any other products that you like out there that have some potential going forward? Things that got you excited about new products and material?
I don't think there's any one thing in particular, Max. This for me, unitized curtain wall is a big thing, and I
Hmm.
know that that's not brand new. It's been out there forever, and we've done a fair amount of it here in the East. But for my market territory, is something that I hope to see education continue to increase in the local builders, and I think is a huge part of a way forward. That's already been proven in many markets, and for our market, I'm hoping to see that kind of grow and come to light, and be utilized more. Cost is obviously a factor, and we get into lost in all the details of what comes into play there. But at the end of the day, I feel like it'll be a better product for the end user, and also will help us with some of the labor crises that's obviously going on in the market. So
Yeah, unitized is a force in my opinion. It could be growing and growing, and more people are getting into it for for a lot of the reasons that you had mentioned. And but you're right about the fact that there's misconceptions with it. There's still not a lot of understanding with it. Where I feel for a guy like you is you mentioned the term design assist a few times. You're in the middle and delegated design. You're in the middle of those sort of scenarios, and you're trying to educate people about unitized and all these different things. You're juggling a lot, my friend. I mean, that's a tough adventure in there you're in the middle of.
it is a tough adventure, but Max, there's folks like you guys, and Alex that's out there. I forget Alex's last name at the moment. I'm at a loss, but I'm sure you'll know.
Bouchel from Learn Glazing. Yes.
There you go. And different ones that are educating and doing their part. And I think that'll come along. But even more so than just conventional unitized curtain wall, I think panelization overall of envelopes is got a ways to go, and I'm not really sure where we will fit into that just yet. We're still trying to sort that out, but I'd like to see more of that. I think it has some promising things to give back to the industry on ways to kind of minimize some risk and improve quality and things of that nature. So I'm really hoping to see more of that.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's what I think everybody can get behind: minimal risk and higher quality. That's those are good things to get behind. I'm with Trey Taylor, president of Bees Building Envelope Erection Services. Please check out their website at www.beesinc.net. A couple more questions. We touched on it briefly when we talked about burnout. Your culture, your company, it's really, really impressive. I'm a big culture guy. It's one of those things that I really love, and I love teamwork, and I love, the way that things go. And when you guys were spotlighted by NGA, I noticed it was the team. It was a team sort of effort. Where did this all come from? Is this the way you were brought up? Is this something that you discovered along the way? I mean, I think you've unlocked a lot of things about respecting and wanting to collaborate with everybody in a good team atmosphere. Very impressive.
Yeah, so I'd love to take the credit for that, but I think you got to give some of that back to team sports. You mentioned that earlier,
Yeah.
asked me about sports, and growing up was a part of that, and so were my other business partners, Will Brown and Chad Loggins, and so there was a lot of folks on our team. Period. And somewhere along the way, early on, it just kind of clicked that we needed to kind of rebrand and refocus, and so when we'd done that, everyone kind of shifted to a team, and we took the I out of it. And I think that's been a huge shift for us. And that started about 7 years ago now. When we first got into this, there was this project manager that handled that job, and that project manager that handles this job, and this superintendent that handled that job. And every job was kind of ran in its own way under the
Mhm.
delegation of those individuals. And when we started doing this, what we call our team approach, and it's literally in our bids and in our proposals, and we mean what we say. Everybody's involved, and it's not a one person show. It takes all of us to pull this off, and we're just preaching that, daily and weekly, and trying to live it out. And I'm glad you find our culture to be a good one. We're certainly proud of it, but we also see plenty of opportunities to continue to improve on that, and are constantly looking at what other companies are doing, and that whether that's in the industry or outside, to try to just continue to work on that. And a big reason for that, Max, is, and this is kind of cliche because everyone or a lot of folks will say this, but our people are our best resource.
Yes. Yes.
And yes, I am an owner of the company, but just as much I'm an employee of the company, and just as much I'm just a small part of that team. And so it's really just keeping that at the forefront of everybody's mind, and constantly flying that flag that, hey, we're in this together, and we got to hold each other up and hold each other accountable, and really pushing that and making it a priority.
I love it. I love it. Well, there's no I in team, and there's no I in bees. That's how I'm
Yes,
looking at it. And
there
so,
you go.
and I love the fact that the one thing that you said there that I definitely wanted to point out is I love that you're constantly looking at others and trying to continue to learn. That continued improvement is such a big piece. Because if I look at you from the outside looking in, it's like, man, they're just awesome. They're kicking butt. And here you're looking at yourself saying, where can we get better? How
Yeah.
can we improve, and how can we all continue to collaborate and take that next step? And that's important. You don't get soft at that point. And I like that you're the approach you're taking.
Well, I guess part of that is social media, as I'm going to put it, at least for business owners. We're not like the news in that we don't show all the bad stuff. The local news is going to show you nothing but
Right.
what's wrong. Whereas social media, we're definitely going to fly the flag on what's going right. But don't lose sight that I'm sure every good company out there does it. I'm sure we want to raise awareness to our group on all the things that we did great, but we also have to be willing to talk about the things that we could use to stand and improve on. And I think that's what any relationship, period. And that's how we really look at it: is that this is a relationship. We're a family. We're supporting each other, and we have to have hard conversations and good conversations, and kind of go from there.
I love it. I love it. And at our BEC conference for NGA, one of the most requested sort of seminar that we're asked to do is people want to know those problem jobs and what you did to fix it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And so that kind of goes to what you're saying is that, in social media, when your social media comes up and Bees is showing some awesome project at Duke, there are probably 25 different things behind the scenes that we'll never know about. you know,
absolutely.
and so I think that, you learn from that and you approach it and you fix it to the next. So kudos again to you, and kudos on the culture. I just think that's such a huge key in this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that.
Uh,
And that is, I will give props to a couple other glass companies, and I think this helping us that certain glazing contractors aren't necessarily exposed. If they're wholly going to general contractors, then they're going to get feedback from those customers at that level. Where one advantage we have by partnering with other glazing contractors is we're getting to see behind the doors and behind the curtains of their organization as well, and they're looking behind ours, and so we're kind of growing together from that aspect of, well, this works well, this doesn't, and this has helped, and this hasn't, and I think that's been a huge advantage for us. And another thing I'll mention is that we also are a part of a Glazer peer group where there's 9 of us that
Wonderful.
range out from Maine to Maryland, and are meeting, I think, 4 times this year, and talking about those problems that no one wants to discuss, that
Yep.
we all face and deal with, and what did they learn from it, and how did they approach it, and how are they building leaders within their company, for example. What were they doing for leadership training and soft skills and things of that nature? But anyway.
Smart. No, it's smart. And the peer group thing's brilliant. I know a few companies that are in various peer groups, and I think that's a great piece. And then, doing what you do, like attending different events. You were at Glass Build last month. That makes a big difference too, because that's where you learn and meet people and expand your network, and you get some of these ideas. And I'm bummed I didn't get to see you. You said before we started recording, you saw me running around.
Yeah,
I'm so bummed.
I saw you scooting off. We were tangled up, I think, with Elu or one of the other aluminum machining center folks, and I saw you scoot by with a handful of folks and started to chase you down. But I said, no, I'm going to see him. I'm going to see him. And I figured I may see you at the Glazer Nation party.
Yeah.
And because I think you were presented an award there for ambassador, which you certainly deserve. But
Thank you.
unfortunately, you weren't able to make it to that, so we didn't bump into each other.
No, I'm bummed we didn't make it, and I'm bummed I couldn't make it to the Glazer Nation thing. Glassville just eats me up. I have so much going on there, and it's like 3 days of just mayhem for me. And so it's I wish I would have seen you though, but I'm glad you were there. I'm glad you were there. So one more question. I got Trey Taylor with me, president of Bees Building Envelope Erection Services. Really curious on this one. This is probably the $1 million question everybody wants to know. What are you feeling about the economy? 24 and 25. I mean, it's there are good days and there are bad days, and we read things optimistically, we read things pessimistically. How are you feeling? What are things looking like in your world?
So I'm certainly no different than anyone else, and obviously, and you get economic reports and watch the media and watch the news, and it's easy to find yourself discouraged. So to say that I'm immune to that would be a lie.
Yeah.
But in general, I try to be more of an optimist than a pessimist, and with a little bit of realist mixed in. And so the optimist side in me would tell you that there's a lot of pent up work, that we've probably got more outstanding budgets than we've ever had, and more large scale projects that seem promising than we've ever had, which is great. And I do think that stuff will let loose at some point. The realist side of me is starting to feel like 24 is probably going to actually be a harder year than I think most people would predicted a year ago.
Right.
I don't think 24 is going to be a banner year overall for our industry by a long stretch. I do believe there's some companies out there that have solid backlog that's going to carry them through 24 just fine, but I don't believe there's going to be the abundance of work that we've seen in years past. For us at Bees, we are fairly secure through 24. We've been fortunate. We've got some good customers and a decent backlog, but we are actually still looking for work, and that's a little unusual. By this time of the year, normally we would already have the next year booked out.
Yeah.
So the pessimist side of me is a little concerned about that, but not overly anxious. Now for 25, I really do believe in my heart that that's going to be a turning point for a number of reasons. I think things will certainly have ran its course and stabilized and done what it's going to do. And so I do feel like people will start to build again. You know, different people watch different indexes and say different things. And I'm more of the mindset, I really don't care what a gallon of milk costs.
Right.
That's probably a bad way of referencing it. But what I mean by that is if a gallon of milk costs $3 or it costs $5, to me, I'm okay with that as long as it stabilizes and
Right.
we're not seeing it go up and down and up and down. And I think that's what the economy overall has experienced is this the involatility and the ups and downs. And that's hard for anyone to adjust and plan for. And instead of a gallon of milk, I could have used the term interest rate.
Yeah.
And that would have been okay as well to talk in that same manner that, you know, do I want interest rates to be 8%? Well, maybe not if I'm a home buyer, but for other reasons, it might not be so bad.
Right.
So for me, it's more just stabilizing things, I think, is what we need to see. And I do feel like we'll see that. I missed the economic forecast at Glassfield, so I'm curious kind of what was the outlook overall, Max? What can you tell us they were presenting there?
Yeah, he was, he's a great speaker, and I know you've seen him before. Connor Lokar from ITR spoke at Glassfield, and really, Trey, I mean, a lot of people left there a little down in the dumps. He gave a really hard look and said a lot of what you just said. 24 is going to be a challenge. And he had said that last year that he felt that March of 24 would start a little bit of a downturn. And so I think it's just consistent. I don't know if people really listened when he said that last year in 2022, because I think they were just so excited about 23. So yeah, you guys are pretty much on the same page. There was another economist who spoke at a conference in Orlando right after Glassbuild, and that was similar to again to what you were saying. So I think we know we have we have a challenge this year coming up. I mean, there's just no doubt that we have to be resilient and we have to keep being diverse and looking. And then this is where again places like yours with your culture, you're figuring out ways to make the most out of things.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're going to see. And unfortunately, I do believe competition will increase. I think there will be folks reaching out to outside markets. We're likely going to have to do the same thing. And so, that's part of the nature of it. But from a long-term standing, I think everyone just needs to make sure they hunker down and weather the storm and don't try to get too big for themselves during what's to come. And it's going to come back. It's got to. We're a resilient country and we have a resilient economy overall. And hopefully we're stronger as an outcome of it all.
We will be. We will be. This is good stuff. I appreciate your insight. This has been a fun podcast. Trey Taylor, president of Bees Building Envelope Erection Services. See them online at beesinc.net. Also see them on LinkedIn, always putting up one awesome project after the next. Trey, thank you so much for your time and your dedication to our industry. Really, really appreciate it.
Max, I really appreciate you. I sincerely mean that. I know you get told it often on all of your podcasts, but you really are out there doing a lot to kind of educate people and bring our industry up. And that's important. That's going to help in many ways, whether that's finding new talent to come into our industry or connecting companies with other companies or just raising general awareness to architects and then manufacturers, just on and on I could go. But what you're doing does make an impact. And I, for one, certainly appreciate it. And I know that most of the glazing owners that I talk to feel the same way. So thank you, seriously.
I really appreciate it. You're welcome. That is humbling. So thank you so much. And look forward to seeing you in person here one of these days. Thank you so much.
Amen, Max. Have a good one.
Thank you. Okay. I'm thrilled to be joined by an old friend, a good man, Henry Taylor, commercial training manager of Kawneer. Obviously, everybody knows Kawneer. Find them online at kawneer.com. Henry, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Max, great to hear from you, bud. I'm excited about this. We talked about this possibility back at BEC, and I know you've been busy, and I've been excited about the opportunity to get together and share some thoughts with you. So it's really getting together with an old friend. You and I have known each other since
a long time,
or 2000 or so. Yeah, it's been quite a while, and I've always enjoyed our relationship, and I've enjoyed watching it grow and spend time with you on many levels, Max. So great to be here.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan. Henry is an awesome mind in our industry, just brings so much to the table. And as he mentioned, we work together. We've been together with BEC. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. But Henry, I think, I know a little bit about your past because I was with you way back in the day. But for our viewers and our listeners, a little bit about your background, where you were born, where you grew up, and how you made it to this wild and wonderful glass and glazing industry.
Well, I'll try and make it exciting, Max. Thank you very much. It's not all that thrilling, but we'll see if we can't make it exciting. But I was born and raised in Atlanta, so I'm a native Georgian, native Atlantan, which is kind of unusual because Atlanta is an international city.
Yep.
There are people in and out of it all the time, and it's amazing how many times people say, "Well, you don't sound like you're from the South. You don't have an accent," and it's because Atlanta is such an international city. So many people through it that the city's kind of lost the accent. You get to the suburbs outside the city,
Yeah.
and you can definitely tell the Atlanta accent. But after graduating college, I started a position with Kawneer, and it was really interesting. They had a couple of sales opportunities available, and there were five, and four were really exciting locations. And I watched all of them get ticked off one by one, given to other people. And I wound up, I'm not putting it down or anything, but my first sales position was in Detroit, Michigan.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that was really, that was jumping in the deep end pretty fast there.
Especially for a guy from Atlanta too. It's a different sort of
Yes,
world coming from the south of Atlanta to the heart of the Motor City. It was eye-opening for you though, but it was good for you, I think.
it really was. I wound up being kind of a novelty, and that
Right.
actually opened doors. Oh, that Southern guy's calling on us. So
Right.
that opened doors. So I moved from there to Grand Rapids, Michigan. I got to tell you, that was so much fun. I
Yeah.
enjoyed Grand Rapids, Michigan. I still have a good relationship with our customers from there. I still talk with quite a few of
Nice.
them and enjoy keeping up with them. So that was so much fun. And we had four kids there. So I always laugh that our kids are Yankees and I'm from the South, but
That's
all my kids are.
I did not realize all four of your kids were born there. So that's fascinating. So they're Michiganders. I like that.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
something else you and I have in common.
Yes, yes, I like that. I like that. And,
Yeah.
and Grand Rapids right now is like the hottest city in the state of Michigan. It is like the place to live. Everybody wants to live in Grand Rapids.
Isn't that something? It really is. It's when I was there, it was such a kind of quiet spot. It was like a secret. It
Yeah.
was a great location. It was a big town, small city. They opened the Bob and all the development along what is it, Medical Highway, Medical Hill,
Mhm.
and Grand Valley State University. The city, the location was just ripe for growth. So it's really exciting to hear how much has taken off in that area. So now going back there and looking at it, it's like, wow, all this stuff I missed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're a part of the start of it. Let's put it that way. You're a part of the start of the growth there. And now you're back in Atlanta, correct? You're based in
Yes.
Atlanta?
Yeah, moved back to Atlanta, and then you and I got connected when I
Hmm.
joined Arch. I moved back to my family's here,
Right.
and there came a point in Michigan when my wife and I realized, wow, we are 14 hours away from our family because my parents had just had my dad had been in a huge accident that totaled a car, and my mom had a medical condition. So all of a sudden we realized, we really should be uh, closer to home
Right.
and providentially, then my position in Grand Rapids got terminated. So that kind of made it clear. I guess we're going back to Atlanta. But an opportunity opened up to move me back down there, and then eventually joining with Arch.
Yeah.
And then you and I got hooked up in the marketing department there at Arch.
Yep.
And do you remember that was right when Lead came out?
You're right, right. The beginnings of the green rating systems, and
Yeah.
you were one of the first experts in that. That I
Well,
forgot about that. That you're I mean you're a very varied man, and you know so much about so many things. But I forgot about the lead thing. Wow.
yeah, because you and I got together on that, and
Yep.
people were scared of it.
Yeah.
They didn't know it. They weren't, people are not used to change, and this was like, is this going to be a dramatic change in the industry?
Right.
But you and I started studying. We realized, wow, there are really benefits here to
Yeah.
uh, to our industry. And then you and I came up with what we call the lead planning tool, if you remember. So
I do.
we published something, yeah, and that was really fun. I remember And once you and I got into it, we realized this is not that bad. We went to a couple of sales meetings, remember, and talked about it.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a difference back then, and it's funny where it was then versus where it is now. But I love that first planner that we created. It was like one of the first ones that were out there. And again, I forgot you basically were that self-taught expert because there was nothing on lead in green building. We were all learning at the time, and you were one of the first to the party by far, by far. Very
That
cool.
was fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed working with you, and you and I had such a great time going and
Yes.
doing the marketing at sales meetings, and then going out and traveling and trying to educate the sales crew there. So that
Yep.
was I learned a lot from you, Max. I really
Well,
did.
thank you.
You taught me quite a bit about the marketing side of it, and it was a thrill working with you. But not only that, you really did a lot for me because you also got me involved in BEC, and then pushed me to go for chairman position. So I followed you in
Yep.
marketing. I followed you into BEC, and then I followed you into the chair. So you blazed the trail for me, man. I appreciate it.
Well,
I would not
hey,
have my life, Max, if it weren't for
yeah.
you.
Yeah. That was my pleasure. And I mean, you were great at everything that you touched. And getting you involved with BEC was a no-brainer. And when you moved back to Kawneer, it really made sense because having you there and with that brand behind you, it really, really worked. And again, with your mindset, that's the beautiful thing. When I said earlier about how varied you are, there's nothing that you were afraid of learning. And that's what I was really always, impressed by and kind of awed by because, whatever was thrown on your plate, you're like, yeah, I can figure it out. I'll learn it and go from there. And that's why you were great. And the one thing I probably feel the worst about is you took over BEC in the teeth of that first recession. And I that was so unfair because we didn't know that was going to happen. But your first couple BEC shows were when things weren't very good in our world. But like you're always optimistic and you kept trucking along. And to this day, you're still involved in BEC, which we're going to cover in a bit. But let's talk a little bit about. So you got back to Kawneer.
Yes.
You got called back to Kawneer, which was pretty awesome. And I remember you calling me and saying, "Hey, I got this call from Kawneer. They're offering me a job to come back." And I remember saying to you, it's the Yankees. And the Yankees have called you to Yankee Stadium. You got to go for it. And I was happy for you. But let's talk about the legendary brand of Kawneer. You're there. What's new, noteworthy? How's life over there in Atlanta with the big brand?
Well, it's exciting, and it's it's exciting to be in glass and glazing at this time in our industry. And I can go on endlessly talking about how excited I am about glass and glazing at this time. There's so many trends in the market
Yeah.
that just align perfectly for our industry. So when I spend time with our customer base, yeah, I really am looking at them saying, guys, you don't know how good you got it right now. We're such a good time. But with Kawneer, we're looking at all these trends, things about people moving back into urban areas or urbanization. So how do you move away from curtain wall into window wall systems and the benefits of window wall when you're concerned about STC? Now, people moving back in the downtown areas, you hear background noise in a commercial building all the time. That's not a
Yeah.
problem. But when you go to your home, at
Right.
the end of the day, you don't want to hear background noise. So STC is such a big driver. We've been doing a lot of testing for seismic testing of our systems. So
Okay.
safety is such an issue when you talk about drivers like internal occupant safety, occupant thermal comfort. There's so many things that impacts our industry that we're responsible for when we put up a commercial building.
Yeah.
So as a company, Kawneer, we're looking at that. How do we tailor our products so that they really focus on interior occupant comfort, having to do with STC, having to do with thermal, how to do with light control, reducing glare,
Yeah.
and then safety, blast mitigation, and seismic. Um, there's a lot going on there. Along those lines, we've added a lot of triple glazing to our products. So we're
Gotcha.
looking at in taking SDC performance and thermal performance beyond a double glazed to a triple glazed unit.
Which
Uh,
automatically helps it. The triple makes a huge difference, and then you put it in
yeah,
your framing, and bam, you got something there.
in all those areas, yes, absolutely, it does. and also looking at ways that we can, our customers are changing from where I first met our customers in the 80s or the 90s. They've changed. We used to run around giving out price books and run around giving out detail binders and
Right.
having suites brochures. None of that's out there anymore. That stuff's kind of history.
Yeah.
You look at some of the new people in our industry and they don't know what a price book is. They're
Right.
used to going online and Google something. They can't Google it. They're not interested. So we're doing a lot more of online customer enhancements through our Kawneer Direct program, through Partner Pack, just creating more online tools that allow our customers to get more instantaneous feedback and instantaneous results instead of sending in an order and waiting 3 days for a confirmation. Why can't we give it to them spontaneously?
Right.
So things like that are really helping. And what's interesting, Max, is we've seen our revenue side on our Kawneer Direct platform steadily growing. So there wasn't resistance to taking on this more online interaction with your customers. They bought right into it, which is really exciting to see. And it does allow us then to put more tools out there, thermal calculators, solar calculators that allow our customers to be more self-sufficient and not have to wait for a call back from someone. So that's kind of exciting to see.
Yeah.
Another thing that we started doing, Max, when the pandemic hit and we couldn't go out and call on architects,
Right.
we started a very healthy monthly AIA online webinar program. And that's been exciting to see. Our numbers on that have been big, and
Oh,
they
I can imagine.
continue to be.
Nice.
Yeah, that's been so much fun seeing that. And we still do it monthly. We have an online webinar. And the fun thing is, Max, we do it live and we encourage people to ask questions. And I have associates of mine that are on with me, and we're sitting there answering questions, sending things back. So people are sending in questions and we're sending answers back to them. So you wind up having this great dynamic conversation across 50 states, 4 time zones, all in an hour. It's really exciting.
I
So
like
again,
it.
there's so many tools out there that are really facilitating communication and knowledge transfer. And we're trying to jump on taking advantage of all of those.
I love it. And you've got some great coworkers, so that makes a lot of sense too. And I love, just backing up a little bit, you covered there's more to occupant comfort than just thermal.
Yes.
And I think that's in our industry. Sometimes we get glommed on to thermal, but acoustic is part of that, and safety and security is part of that. And so I like the way that you put that. And you're right, with a more urban aspect of things, acoustic plays a huge role. You have to have more of that, because as we're looking to change these buildings, from commercial to residential, because of just the changing landscape, other things have to change to make it more comfortable. So I like where you went there, and I love the fact that people are getting into the Kawneer Direct program that you mentioned, because the one thing we all take a bad rap about is that this industry is slow to change. And we are, and there's no doubt we are, but the fact that people are going direct and doing it the way that you guys were hoping they would do it, that's a positive sign for me. That's exciting, and it's got to feel good for you too, because you've been a part of this thing from the beginning.
It is exciting to see that. So and it's that the demographics, the younger group coming into our industry, which is great to see the younger group coming in. So the way we would talk to them versus the guys that we used to talk to back in the 80s, it's a different conversation. It's a different way of talking. And Max, I'm going to circle back, if I can, to talking about interior occupant comfort.
Please.
A couple of trends in our industry, and if I'm getting off on a goose chase,
let me
know.
Yep.
But there are trends in the industry, expanding use of daylight and natural light, and the benefits of a view to the exterior. Those are things that really are plus for our industry. Those are trends in architecture, a desire to expand the glazing on the exterior of the building to benefit from a view, that connection of the interior with the exterior. We're really not realizing now how important that is. And a sign of a healthy building is that wherever you are within the building, you have an uninterrupted view to the exterior.
Yeah.
And we've realized that, a couple of years ago, a Pulitzer Prize was awarded to two scientists who documented that daylight drives our body's natural circadian rhythm. So we need that connection to daylight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the studies, we've talked about the studies on commercial buildings, educational buildings, hospitals that have documented the benefits in productivity and employee engagement and reduced turnover and absentee rates in all three of those types of construction, driven by the availability of natural light and views, daylighting. And, Max, I don't know if you've ever checked what the visible light transmission of a brick is, but it's not,
It's
it's
not
not that
good.
great.
No, it's not.
No.
I,
So
I
those are things that really are benefiting our industry right now. So we need to take advantage of that. So you see great steps forward in glass, as far as solar control, low E
Yep.
coatings. All these things are incredible enhancements that, as architects are willing to give us more of the exterior of a building, we've got to step up our game, because now we're taking more and more responsibility
Yeah.
for the building envelope, and that is interior occupant safety and comfort, which is all those aspects, including glare, and direct light. But again, Max, these are, you're well aware of these. We've talked about this BEC. These are really drivers that are great for our industry. So
And important
about,
reminders. Yeah, definitely
Mhm.
important reminders. And there's no doubt natural light. And I like the way you set that all up there. Those are big things. And I'm glad you're on monthly calls with architects to keep reminding them of that, because brick doesn't cut it. I mean,
Yeah.
and we do take it. We battle that as an industry, because you still, every quarter you still get that article that comes out that says glass skyscrapers are bad, that sort of thing, and
Yes.
all the old talking points. But so I'm glad you're battling it and putting it out there the way you are. I'm with Henry Taylor, commercial training manager of Kawneer. See them online, kawneer.com. Mixing things up a little bit, a fun question for you. Despite the fact that I've known you for 30 plus years, I think, I'm curious, your all-time favorite food / meal. What's the go-to food or meal for Henry Taylor?
Okay. Well, first I got to go back to you now.
Okay.
And tell me if I'm stepping out of bounds here, but when you and I used to travel back early 2000s, you wanted to eat every meal at, was it Charlie's, or do you remember that?
You know what?
There was some.
I kind of know where you're going, and I don't remember the exact chain, because that was definitely the memory aspect of my world not being good. But I am a creature of routine, and so that doesn't surprise
Oh
me. I
yeah.
wanted to eat the same place and also eat a
What?
lot, because I was addicted to peanut M&Ms back then, big time addicted
Oh,
to
I
peanut
still am.
M&Ms. Yeah, but
Still am.
you look good. You can get away with it. I start eating
Well, I
peanut M&Ms, I
appreciate
won't fit
that,
in the
bud.
screen. So tell
But
me,
I thought it.
yeah,
Well, I tell you what. Okay, if you, my family, when we
yes,
travel to the coastal area, they hate me because I want to eat fried shrimp for breakfast, lunch,
love
and
it,
dinner. I
love
can't.
it.
When I'm on the coast, I can't get enough of fried shrimp. So that's going to be one of my all-to go-tos. But my quest in life is to find the world's greatest hamburger.
Oh
And
wow,
that's
okay,
something I'm going to try. Oh yeah, I'm going
I
to
like
try a
that.
hamburger wherever I go, because it can be different anywhere you go.
Yes,
If you go to the Southwest, it's going to be totally different
yep.
than going to
The
the
Northeast.
Northeast.
Yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. So burgers can be very regional,
yep,
and they're always fun to go try. And breweries always do a good job with their food.
yeah.
And if you go to a nice brewery, you can usually count on finding a good burger there
I
too.
love it. I love it. You're on
Yeah,
a
so
quest
that
for the best burger. That we got to keep that in mind for you.
absolutely.
Very cool.
I'm
Very
gonna
cool.
keep trying. So
Nice,
so if you want a
nice.
burger sometime, let me know. We'll go out.
You bet on it. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm with Henry Taylor of Kawneer, and his title is commercial training manager. So it leads nicely into my next question, which is about training. And it's something that you've done your entire life. Even when I worked back with you at Arch, part of your role was training people. You've always been helpful to people. But how can we advance training overall? I mean, obviously, you guys at Kawneer are doing a great job with your folks and your customers, but how can we as an industry get better at this?
That's a great question. And I think what we need to be teaching people is that training is the cheapest insurance they can get. And I don't just mean training for me, but having internal training programs at each of our customer shops. That's the cheapest insurance you can get, knowing that your guys are all doing it consistently, that everyone's doing the same thing, that everyone's following the company's guidelines, and they're not off on their own. What I run into so often when I'm traveling meeting with companies is that we always run into, and someone's gonna hate me for this, but we always run into a Bobby or a Jimmy
Yeah.
who's been at the company 30 years and they've been gone for 10, and
Yeah.
everyone's still doing it the way Bobby taught them. And you ask them why, well, that's just the way Bobby taught us.
Yep.
Well,
That's the way we've always done it. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. You got tribal knowledge embedded into every company. And a lot of times they don't know why they're doing it this way. I'll give you an example. This is kind of funny. Joint plugs on a curtain wall are a plastic kind of rectangular block and they're hollow. When I was doing a training session, we was working on our curtain wall. When we got to the joint plug section, I said, all right, guys, here's how you do it. And then let's go. Let's start installing them. Some guy runs over and grabs all the joint plugs and starts filling them, the hollow void inside with silicone, set it on the table, filling the next one with silicone, set it on the table, filling the next one. And I asked him, what are you doing?
Right.
He said, well, Bobby always taught us to fill the joint plug with silicone. I said, well, what is that doing?
Yeah.
He said, I don't know. And I said, it's wasting silicone is all it's doing.
Exactly.
It doesn't do anything inside the joint plug. But that's just an example, but we run into that so often. So training is cheap insurance because every company should really want to make sure that everyone's installing it the same way.
Right.
And it's the way the company wants it. So if Max, you're out working on an install one day, and then you have a root canal you got to get to the next day. When I go out, I know what you've been doing, how you've been doing it, so I can pick up where you left off because you and I are on the same page. We're doing it the same way.
Yeah.
And that way, companies, you don't put into your bid remediation. When you bid a job, you don't put in there $12,000 to go back out and replace all the joint plugs that the guys put silicone inside the joint plug and they didn't seal the outside of it. You don't have money in there to do that. So training to make sure everyone knows what they're doing, how to do it, is cheap insurance. And I'll tell you something that's also very interesting when it gets back to that joint plug concept. As I've found, we can go out and we can teach people how to properly install a joint plug, but also important is teaching them why we're installing it, what's the purpose, what's the function of the joint plug. Because if they don't know the why, if they miss one or two, then no one will notice it. No one, who cares? I just missed 5 of them, But when it passes fails a water test or an air test, that's a lot of money to go back and correct it. So guys have to know not only how, but the why behind everything they're doing, so they'll know they have to do it because they understand why it's important and why care and proper application, that one small detail, is so critical to the entire performance of the huge elevation.
Sure. And that's overall great answer, especially it's great insurance for your company. It's great insurance,
Really
for the process. And if it's you personally, training, you can never have enough training. Never have enough training. You're learning something new every day. Yeah.
Things change, systems change, the delivery method changes. We've been talking about automation. Are we going to start using more automation in the field? You're looking at trying to modulize more of your systems, trying to do more labor and glazing in the shop,
right,
and minimize labor in the field. So all these things change, which means we have to be willing to learn. We have to be willing to adapt. And even though we've been doing it the way Bobby taught us to for years, we now got a way to we have to do it the way our glass company is telling us this is our company's method and our company's procedures.
Yeah. And I also like the why, because you're right. If you don't know why you're doing something, that makes a difference too. So that's good. That's good.
It really does, Max. It makes a huge difference.
Knew you'd have a great answer there.
And you know that with your kids, when you taught your kids, you've got to tie your shoes.
Yeah.
Why? You always have to put the why in there. Yeah, because you're going to fall.
You're going to fall. Absolutely. And I hope my son's 23. Hopefully he learns how to tie his shoes one of these days.
I know you've been working on that hard.
We're trying. If he watches this, he will not be happy. So let's talk about BEC a little bit. You like we
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, you were very involved in the very early days. You've stayed involved, even after you were done being a chair, you've stayed on the programming committee. It's coming up this March. Nashville should be a great time. Once again, you're involved in the programming committee. If a Glazer's watching this, what would you tell them on why they should attend an event like BEC?
Well, there's multiple reasons. Now, the big one is I'm going to divide this into two silos. First silo is um, social, and second silo is educational.
Right.
So the first silo, social, is interaction with your peers, is networking, is meeting other companies. I think that everyone should be. We've got people, Max. You know them, guys that come into BEC and they have like accountability groups, or they meet with their peers across the country, not in
Yeah.
their direct market, but they meet with other guys from other shops and they share experiences. How are you dealing with this? How are you handling this type of contract? It's kind of how would we call this? I would call it accountability groups, but there's got to be another term for that.
Yeah.
But
Peer groups is
BC
what I'm pretty
peer
much being
groups,
peer groups. Yeah.
yeah. So I think everybody should come into BEC, meet some other of their peers that they are comfortable calling and meeting with, and sitting down once a year after BEC and going over issues, talking about things.
Yeah.
And you find a lot of guys do. And that's one of the great things, is that kind of networking and social and peer group aspect of BEC. So that's the first silo.
Yeah.
The second silo is educational. And you and I have been doing BEC for years. And one of the things that you and I have always focused on is educational contact. We
Yeah.
want there to be a value proposition. If we're expecting a customer to pay $300 to attend BEC, we want them to get something out of it. We
Sure.
want them to walk away saying it was worth the money. So we've always driven to have a good, strong value of education, of knowledge transfer, so that people come away with good ideas, with new ideas, new understanding of things. So, we always talk about looking at codes, changes in
Yeah.
codes, contract language. I love that conversation we've been having over the years of contract language, how it's changed, and how to be aware of it and defend yourself.
Yeah, and I
Um,
I loved, for last year, I think you nailed it really well about new understanding of things. Last year, you moderated and led and were heavily involved in a panel on what's wrong with this picture. And you would
that
put
was
up a
fun.
picture. It was great. It was tremendous. The audience was on the edge of their seats because you had some people who immediately knew, I know what's wrong with that, and others that were like staring it down, trying to figure it out. And then you, along with two other really, really intelligent people, broke down what was going on in that picture and what was right, what was wrong, and why, obviously. And so I think that's the sort of thing that people get there. And that was a baby of yours that you saw from concept all the way through delivery at BEC, and every year we do that. And so thank you to you for coming up with that one. That was one of the best ones we've ever had.
That was fun. I think you were the one that kind of kicked off that idea. You said, let's do something. What's wrong with this picture? And then we just kind of brainstormed it. It really fell into place. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, people always want to know. It's funny, they love trends and they love economic, and the contract language is important, but they love to know sometimes on what went wrong and how did we fix it,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And your angle of take a look at the picture, was a different way of getting to that point of, okay, there's something off here. What is it? And so I thought you did a great job, and it was a great panel. And we're gonna have a great one this March in Nashville. So registration should be opening up here pretty soon, and you can find that on glass.org, and join Henry and I at BEC. So that's for sure. A couple more questions for Henry.
Absolutely. And while you're there,
Yes,
hit the Johnny Cash Museum.
there you go. Absolutely, I've been there. I love Johnny Cash Museum.
Yes.
Uh, a couple more questions for Henry Taylor, commercial training manager of Kawneer. He's a busy man, and I appreciate him giving me some time. A couple things that have you worried about our space, but also excited about our space. A couple on each. What's got you worried? What's got you excited?
On the worry side is just the economy. And I wish
Yeah,
I wish I was a better predictor of the future, but we've had a number of years of good, strong growth, and that's been good to see. And we've all taken advantage of that and done well. I'm concerned about little bit of a slowdown in the economy and the impact that's going to have on commercial construction. And I'm not the one to really speak about when and where and how or the impact of that, but that does worry me. On the flip side,
Yeah.
what I'm excited about is just kind of what we talked about earlier. The trends, when you look at sustainable design, green construction, some of the trends in there that are encouraging natural light, natural ventilation, enhanced views, and safety and sound. Again, those are things that our industry really needs to take advantage of. You mentioned the articles about the dangers of high-rise building glass buildings. I really like to remind our customers when they think about who their competition is. Now, it's not always that glass shop around the corner, but it's precast, it's ACM, it's brick, it's all these other trades that are looking at those same things, those same drivers about safety, security. Security is a biggie these days. You know, we can't overlook that. So brick guys can argue that it's kind of hard to come through a brick wall. They're going to say, look how many glass storefronts will be broken into. So how do we maintain that real estate on the outside of a building of having glass and at the same time have security and provide comfort and safety for those on the inside? So those are issues that we're looking at. And BEC, we've talked a lot about those issues. Hospitals the same way, the aging population, hospital development growth. How do we encourage use of daylight, natural daylight in hospitals? Vitamin D is great for helping people cure. Sunlight speeds people's recovery. You know, we have a great story to tell when it comes to healthcare. So there are trends going on in our industry. And like you and I looked at LEED back in 2000, it was new. No one understood it, but we didn't get scared of it. We took it on to figure it out. These other trends in our industry, I don't think we should back away from them or get scared of them, like thermal performance. Let's step forward. Let's take ownership of those things. We've got very good products, very good minds, and I'm encouraged by some of the trends because I think they're advantages for us.
No doubt.
They're opportunities for us.
Advantages and opportunities, and when it comes to the economy, we'll roll with the punches because that's what we do. So we do roll with it.
Yes.
I've been really lucky to have Henry Taylor, commercial training manager, Kawneer, Kawneer.com. Thank you so much for doing the podcast, Henry.
Absolutely, Max. Always enjoy spending time with you. It's a blast. You've been a great friend for years. I look forward to many years hearing about you and your family, catching up with you at BEC and developing a relationship. Great to spend time with you, Max.
I'll see you in March, my friend. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Henry. And thank you before that, Trey. And it was, I thought, tremendous insights from both gentlemen. The From the Fabricator podcast, as always, brought to you by myglassclass.com and its counterpart, myglassfab.com. Check them out for your training needs. And if you just listened to Henry, you heard why you need that. As always, when I wrap up the show, I talk about TV. And as you know, I've been dying for some new recommendations because I think I've watched everything. My friend PJ Hillbolt told me that I've watched everything already streaming. And some I think I have. Anyway, I just started The Fall from my friend Tom O'Malley. His recommendation so far, so good. So we'll see how that goes, and looking forward to Jack Reacher coming back here soon, among some others. So, we're battling through on the TV side, but if you have them, recommendations, keep them coming. I'm very thankful for everybody who sent them in, and I am taking them all into account for sure. That will wrap things up for this edition. I'll be back, hopefully, as long as things don't fall through, in another couple weeks with one more special guest to end 2023. Thank you so much for watching, listening, supporting the podcast, the blog, the industry, everything. Very, very grateful. And we will see you next time.
Oh, the music is stopped.